Hello, today we are learning about the medial surface of the cerebrum. So what you are seeing now is the medial surface of the cerebrum, and here the brain stem, which is actually located here, that is removed. So let us have a look at a picture where the brain stem is intact. So you can see that in this picture, the temporal lobe medial surface is kind of obscured by the presence of the brain stem. So we will have to cut the brain stem at this level between the midbrain and the diencephalon, and that's what creates this picture. Okay, so this reveals the frontal lobe, the parietal lobe, the occipital lobe, and the temporal lobe, because the brainstem and the cerebellum are removed from this picture. All right, the most obvious structure that you see in this specimen is this. This is the corpus callosum. Corpus callosum is a large white matter tract, and since it is sectioned in the midline, you see it in this model, but it's actually a three-dimensional structure. So in this, you can see that in the front, in the upper part, you have what is called as the body, and in the lower part, you have what is called as the rostrum. Rostrum means it's like a beak. So you can think that this has a beak that is bended downwards. All right, in the front, you have something that is called as the genu, and in the posterior aspect, you have this part which is called as the splenium, which means like a pad. So these are the different parts, and over here you will have a narrowing. Usually the specimen will have a narrowing in this part between the body and the splenium, and that part is called as the isthmus. So these are the parts of the corpus callosum, but remember that these parts are defined in a midline section in which it appears like a shape in this manner. But actually this is a whole set of fiber tracts that connects the two cerebral hemispheres. So to understand that, please see the video in which I have dissected the corpus callosum, and you can see the forceps minor and the forceps major. For that, you please see this video. All right, we'll go to the rest of the features on the medial surface of the cerebrum. Over here, you can see a light, a translucent membrane that is hanging down from the genu and the body of the corpus callosum, and this is known as the septum pellucidum. Okay, septum pellucidum means it is a septum and it is kind of translucent. That is the meaning of pellucidum. And in hanging on the septum pellucidum, you have this structure, and that is known as the fornix. Fornix is a white matter tract that is connecting the hippocampal region towards the mammillary body that is found below it into the hypothalamus. So that is called the fornix, and the fornix body is hanging down in the septum pellucidum. All right, now let's look into more features in the upper part. Over here, you can see a sulcus that lies just above the corpus callosum, and that is known as the Callosal Sulcus because it is just above the corpus callosum. And above the Callosal Sulcus, you have this gyrus, which is again curvilinear, just like the corpus callosum and the Callosal Sulcus, and that gyrus is called as the Cingulate Gyrus. Okay, cingulate, the word means like it's like a belt around the corpus callosum. That's why it is called Cingulate Gyrus. Now, above the Cingulate Gyrus, you can see a sulcus. And this sulcus is almost parallel to the Callosal Sulcus, which we saw before. And this sulcus is known as the Cingulate Sulcus. So these are the curvilinear structures that are running parallel to the corpus callosum, the Callosal Sulcus, the Cingulate Gyrus, and above that, the Cingulate Sulcus. And the Cingulate Sulcus has a very characteristic upturned margin. Okay, almost just posterior to the middle of the cerebrum. It has an upturned margin, and that upturned margin is known as the pars marginalis. This is a very important structure because just in front of the pars marginalis, you have the central sulcus located. Okay, that is how we identify. This is one of the identifying features of central sulcus. It will be lying just in front of the pars marginalis. Now, recall that central sulcus is a structure that is very prominently seen on the superolateral surface of the cerebrum, but on the medial surface, this is the small part of the central sulcus that you can see. And around the central sulcus, you have the very important paracentral lobule. So this is called paracentral lobule. Paracentral lobule is posteriorly limited by the pars marginalis of the Cingulate sulcus, and anteriorly it is limited by the paracentral sulcus. This structure is called the paracentral sulcus. So this is what paracentral lobule is. Paracentral lobule is important because this is the medial extension of the precentral gyrus and the postcentral gyrus. That means the sensory and the motor regions of the lower limb is located in the paracentral lobule. Okay, thank you.